short rant video while I sit in my car. I come out on my lunch and I sit in my car and I listen to the radio, and I just feel like I am so fed up with the storytellers of today. Like, if you're someone younger or my age or whatever, and you feel like all you can think about is partying and having sex and getting drunk and getting high and living a wild life, there's a reason you probably think about that all the time if you're someone who does, and it's because it's this message that is just constantly pushed on you from every single direction. And I wasn't really aware of that when I was younger because I also just thought about stuff like that all the time. But the more that I have really taken a break from mainstream TV, and I know everybody's like, oh, I don't watch the news, but I'm talking like mainstream TV. Like when I took a break from watching a lot of rom-coms, watching a lot of reality TV, because a lot of that stuff honestly just started to make me depressed about how I was single, which actually was a really good thing for myself, but watching that stuff would just make me sad. And so I didn't stop watching it because I was like, oh, I don't like the messaging. I just stopped watching it because it would make me depressed and it would make me sad that I wasn't dating somebody. But as I took a break from that stuff, and then slowly stopped listening to like modern music as well for different reasons, I just when I get glimpses of it now, it's just, we're inundated with this stuff. It blows my mind how much we are inundated with this stuff. It's seriously from every direction. I feel like every single song I listen to, whether it's on like pop radio or country radio, anything modern nowadays, it's all about getting wasted, having wild nights together. It's always about sex. If it's not about sex, it's somehow related to being drunk. It's somehow related to being high. It's somehow celebrating youth, not celebrating being old together. It's all about like, oh, remember back when we were young? I guess because there's nothing fucking important or worthwhile once you get past like 26. I don't know. And, I'm just fed up with it. I'm just like genuinely fed up with it. There's so many movies that I'll try and watch with my friends now, and I'll enjoy them for the most part, but then there's pieces of it where I'm like, you didn't need to put that in there. And an example of this, granted, I understand it's just like skeezy in general anyway, but I watched the Bridgerton second season with my friends. I didn't even watch the first season, but I watched the second season, and they were telling me that compared to the first season, there was like a lot less sexual material, and I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And I'm not one of those people where I like can't handle that stuff. I just like, it doesn't really serve any purpose for me now, I guess, is more so where I'm at. But that wasn't even the parts that I had an issue with. The biggest thing that like really turned me off, and these are the types of things that I notice now because I don't just watch movies to watch movies. It's like I'm kind of incapable of that at this point. The way that my brain works, the way that I've just kind of trained my brain to be constantly assessing my environment for information. Having to learn that skill for my dating life and for life in general to keep myself safe, it's like my brain can't help but do this in movies as well now, or anything that I'm absorbing. It's like I can't just take it at face value anymore. I also have to assess, like, what is this trying to teach me? What message could I pull away from this? I'm just kind of like always doing that in the background now. And so with Bridgerton, if you haven't seen the second season, or if you don't know what the show is about, essentially there's this family, the Bridgerton family. The first season followed around one daughter, I guess. I didn't see it, but I guess it followed around one daughter falling in love, finding her person, all that stuff. And then the second season follows the next kid around, who it's her brother. And there's a girl and he really likes her, but they have this heated, I hate you, I love you thing, which is also just like classic nowadays. You can't just like somebody. There has to be some kind of venomous, intense hate thing going on, which I think also just really desensitizes people to when predators make you feel upset and make you feel like if you're with somebody who maybe they're not even predatory, but they're unhealthy and your relationship is unhealthy. Once again, we're just being normalized to this idea that the toxic up and down is whatever. That's just the way relationships are, and it's funny and it's quirky, and let's make a song or let's make a movie about it. And it's another message that's around us all the time, is like essentially this relationship that's volatile as fuck and has no real stability to it. Or there's just, you can't just like someone, you have to also be like deeply bothered by them at the same time. Anyway, so they have this dynamic. It's hot. It's, you know, because of course it is. It's like there's that kind of like, I hate you, and then there's like a little taboo, you know, or something. So they're going through this whole experience of like being deeply bothered by each other, but also like desiring each other or whatever. And then at the end, it was really the ending that bothered me, because, you know, despite all of this, their relationship actually was very sweet. It was portrayed in like a very sweet way. But the way that they chose to end the show is when they finally ended up being together, the both of them, when there was like a kind of a culmination to their relationship and they ended up getting married, they didn't even show the wedding ceremony, first of all. It literally cuts to them being naked in the bedroom. And I don't care if I sound like old and frugal right now. It's not because I can't handle sex. I've watched porn. I've watched some like really graphic stuff out there. But when I'm examining the stories that are around me and how I'm being told stories, you have to realize that storytellers, they can choose to include whatever aspects they want. There are things that don't have to be included. There are elements that are choices. And the way that you portray a marriage, you as a storyteller have the power to focus on whichever aspect of that you want to focus on, so that the viewer, the listener, the reader learns and pays attention to that aspect as well. They're guiding your eye, they're guiding your mind to pay attention to certain aspects of things. And that is, I think, one of the most powerful things about storytellers, is you get to essentially control the direction that people's minds go in for that brief period of time that they are following the story that you're telling. So if you want to focus on solely the sexual layer of something, the reader, listener, engager also has to follow the sexual layer and aspect of the thing. If you want to focus solely on the love, so will your listener or follower. And with them, you know, what they did in that moment is they robbed us of the opportunity to truly celebrate their relationship as just a relationship. They robbed us of the opportunity to celebrate the love that was there by showing the wedding ceremony or any other kind of moment, to be honest. And instead, our version as the listener or the follower, the version we were presented with for the aspect of the relationship that we were supposed to celebrate, was just the sex. And even in that moment, it wasn't just like they were just having sex. They were talking about like how many times they've had sex, and, you know, she lives to please him in this kind of way. And I just feel so fed up with these kinds of narratives. It's like, because it's around us all the time, this is the type of stuff that makes girls feel like that's how they are supposed to be on their wedding day. Your wedding day is not about like, oh my gosh, we're finally together and we're going to get to be together for the rest of our lives. No, your wedding day is about giving the person that you're with sex, as much sex as you possibly can. Make sure it's hot, make sure it's raunchy, whatever it is. That's the way that you celebrate you guys finally getting to be together. I just think it's really unfortunate, and it just shows me once again, because this is obviously not the only place where this kind of message is being presented. And then you look at the younger generation of kids, and I'm not even that old, I'm 30, but it's all changing so fast. And this is the type of stuff that people younger than me, younger than us, whoever you are, like, are being bombarded with. This is the messaging that is everywhere, on top of so many other things that we could obviously discuss on social media, music, everything like that. I mean, it's just about sex and drinking and drugs and partying all the time. That is all that we celebrate in the stories that we are telling through music and movies. And I am just like fucking fed up. Like, there are people out there who I hear say all the time that they could never get brainwashed. How do you think brainwashing works? It's you getting essentially told something over and over and over again until you believe it. Like, that's literally how indoctrination works. That's literally how brainwashing works. They just essentially repeat information to you over and over and over again until you believe it. Whether that's that you're a piece of shit, or that they're a god and they should be the most special thing to you in the world, or that you should cut off all of your friends and family. If you say something enough times to someone, if you allow someone to tell you something enough times, it sounds crazy, but after a while you will believe it if you let yourself continue to absorb that constant messaging. The same thing happens with stories. So if you want to give yourself the opportunity to believe in other versions of love that are healthier, that aren't completely surrounded around sex, that where love is allowed to be about other things other than just solely sex all the time, where we're not just viewing each other as objects essentially, or romanticizing the idea of a toxic relationship to where eventually that's all that we want and that's all that we crave and that's all that we think makes a good relationship, and where we absorb these stories all the time, where if things get hard or if you feel sad for even a glimpse of a second, you should leave because life shouldn't be difficult for you. It should be a Disney movie all the time. If you want to give yourself the opportunity to experience something real and healthy, please absorb other stories. Please allow yourself, allow your brain to have the opportunity to learn other types of stories other than the ones that are being constantly shoved down our throats nowadays, that all have the same toxic, predatory narrative. Because that really is what that is at the end of the day. They're predatory and toxic types of relationships. And the fact that this is becoming normal to all of us in society is so disheartening to me. The other thing that I don't think people are aware of, because a lot of times people will be like, oh, do you think like that everybody in the media industry and the song industry is just purposefully trying to like groom people? No, because not necessarily, because I think there's passive indoctrination and then there's like active intentional indoctrination. And I think because so many people are just totally lost nowadays, that they've absorbed their own predatory, toxic narratives. And then they have absorbed those stories completely unquestioned. They don't question any of them. So then, because they have those narratives and those beliefs inside of them completely unquestioned, they enter into the art industry, whether that's movies, film, well, movies are film, or music, or whatever it is. And then they passively pass these types of stories and these beliefs onto other people. And they're doing it passively. They're not intentionally sitting down and saying, you know what, this seems like a predatory belief that I want to give to other people because I'm like a closeted pedophile or something like that. It's not that. They really think there's nothing wrong with it. And so because more and more people are getting lost in absorbing these narratives from other storytellers completely unquestioned, they are passively indoctrinating other people into predatory beliefs themselves. And that's where you can unknowingly be complicit in cycles of abuse, whether with yourself or with other people, if you're not really aware and more intentional about your own behavior, what you're absorbing yourself, and what you're then teaching or passing on to other people. Anyway, thank you for letting me ramble. The lighting in here is like so weird. It looks like I'm in heaven or something. But that's all I really wanted to say. So thank you for listening.